It is Friday, June the 9th of 2017. I'm in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. The sun is going down and I'm protesting because it happens to be a gala dinner for the celebrating the 175th anniversary of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, which was founded, I believe, in 1842. So they're having their big 175th anniversary gala dinner right now, and I thought it would be a very good time to protest against the problems that not only the Unitarian Universalist, or I should say the Unitarian Church of Montreal has, but also the larger Unitarian Universalist religious community. And I actually had quite a good conversation with a few people in the last hour or so. I shut down the camera for a while to let the sensor cool down. Nothing of any significance really happened during that time period. Although I did get a friendly honk, supportive honk from a passing car. I got a friendly smile from somebody else. And I also got a guy who was walking his dog, who asked, if the protest was against the church, like you wanted to be sure that it was a protest against the Unitarian Church of Montreal or the larger Unitarian Universalist religious community. And I tell them what I tell everyone else. It's not against the church, in terms of its, claimed principles and purposes and so on. It's against problems in the Unitarian Church of Montreal and in the Unitarian Universalist religious community. It's basically a protest arising out of the fact that Montreal Unitarians and top-level leaders of the Unitarian Universalist Association and a whole lot of other Unitarian Universalists are extreme hypocrites. They do not practice what they preach. If they practiced what they preach, I wouldn't be out here protesting, because I'd have no reason to protest, because they're actually practicing justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. They're actually practicing a free and responsible search for truth and meaning and so on. But they're doing the exact opposite. They are brazenly lying to hide the truth. They're otherwise seeking to hide the truth through censorship and so on. They go to extreme and immoral and unethical and borderline criminal, in some cases actually criminal, lengths to conceal the truth. They actively, knowingly, and willfully pervert the course of justice. They obstruct the course of justice, not only, in the very strict sense, in terms of obstructing the work of the police and the justice system, and perverting the justice system, in various ways, but in the broader sense of obstructing, justice within the community itself and perverting justice within the community itself, both locally here at the Unitarian Church of Montreal and in the larger Unitarian Universalist religious community, and certainly at the headquarters of the Unitarian Universalist religious community in Boston. There's just a lot of obstruction of justice for victims of clergy misconduct of all kinds, but clergy sexual misconduct in particular. And there's certainly perversion of justice as well that goes on. So, that's, one of the reasons I'm out here protesting. So, there's also the anti-religious intolerance and bigotry that I and many other people have experienced, particularly coming from the atheist Unitarian Universalists, who basically, not all of them, but a subset of Unitarian Universalist atheists are basically intolerant, anti-religious, bigoted, so if you believe in God, you're stupid, you're ignorant and so on. If you claim a religious experience, you're psychotic or otherwise seriously mentally ill, delusional, and so on. So you get that kind of thing going on. A lot of anti-Christian, anti-Catholic intolerance and bigotry. There's nothing wrong with reasonable criticism of Christianity and the Roman Catholic Church and so on, but all too often it descends into bigotry. So, got a bunch of people going by here, looking at the signs. And, yeah, actually a fair bit of bike traffic and pedestrians all of a sudden. A fair bit of car traffic as well. So yeah, it was actually quite quiet for about half an hour or so, 15 or 20 minutes anyway. And now all of a sudden you got a bunch of pedestrians and bikes and cars passing. It'll maybe quiet down again. But yeah, we're just protesting the specific reason to be here at this point in time is because the Unitarian Church of Montreal is having a special gala to celebrate its 175th anniversary, and I wanted to be sure that members of the church and also members of the public who would be showing up, such as this person here, would see the signs and be reminded or made aware for the first time of the fact that Unitarian Universalists do in fact misuse Canada's blasphemy law and legal bullying intended to cover up and deny pedophilia and rape. I mean, that's not the only issue I'm protesting, but it's high on the agenda because it's one of the most immoral and unethical and borderline criminal and quite frankly batshit crazy things that Unitarian Universalists have done. And it's also the 5th anniversary, more or less, of being falsely accused of the criminal act of blasphemous libel by the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney. So, yeah, that's because it's the 5th anniversary and because I'm trying to get this shameful episode in Unitarian Universalist history into the mainstream media again. That's the main emphasis of my protest tonight, but there's quite a number of other issues as well. But it's truly beyond the pale for the Unitarian Universalist Association, which represents the Unitarian Universalist religious community, not only in the United States, but basically in the world. There are other Unitarian groups, but in terms of actual Unitarian Universalism, it's the Unitarian Universalist Association that is the primary representative of Unitarian Universalism. As I said, certainly in the United States. I'd broaden it out to all of North America and indeed South America and really the world. That's when you want to know what Unitarian Universalists are officially claiming, well, you look to see what the Unitarian Universalist Association is claiming. Essentially, one of the job descriptions of the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association is that they're the primary spokesperson for Unitarian Universalism. So when the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, now former president, recently resigned president, the Reverend Dr. Peter Morales, who quite appropriately resigned on April Fool's Day this year. I thought that was an excellent date for his resignation, because he is an incredible fool. But nonetheless, part of his foolishness was to authorize the Canadian attorney for the Unitarian Universalist Association, Maitre Marc-Andre Coulombe, to falsely accuse me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel and legal bullying that was intended to conceal such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers from the public. Very, very foolish thing to do. On a variety of levels, but it was definitely immoral, definitely unethical, definitely borderline criminal. And I say borderline criminal in the sense that it was one step away from being a criminal act to falsely accuse me of a criminal act. When you go to the police and you falsely accuse a person of a crime, well, that is a criminal act in Canada. It's an act of public mischief. And if the Unitarian Universalist Association had gone to the SPVM, the Montreal Police Force, and had tried to have me arrested and charged with blasphemous libel on the false basis that I'd made unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, well, that would have been an act of public mischief. So that's how it's borderline criminal for the Unitarian Universalist Association to misuse Canada's blasphemy law in clergy, sex abuse, cover-up, legal bullying. It's also batshit crazy. Did I forget to mention batshit crazy? Definitely batshit crazy for atheist Unitarians to not only totally disregard the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, which, amongst other things, call for a free and responsible search for truth and meaning and justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and so on, but also to totally betray a centuries-old tradition of Unitarians and Universalists of opposing blasphemy laws. Because Unitarians and Universalists were considered to be heretics by the mainstream Trinitarian Christian churches, they were very often, on the wrong end of blasphemy laws. They were arrested and charged and tried for violating, various blasphemy laws in various states and countries, various states of America and in Great Britain and other countries. Unitarians and Universalists were, basically victimized by blasphemy laws. So as a result of that, Unitarians and Universalists have this long tradition of being opposed to blasphemy laws, and yet when it is convenient for them to accuse me of violating Canada's blasphemy law in the hopes of intimidating me into removing blog posts to tell the readily verifiable truth about such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers, well then all of a sudden their opposition to blasphemy laws fades away. Truly outrageously hypocritical for Reverend Dr. Peter Morales and the Executive Vice President of the Unitarian Universalist Association. You might have noticed a slight accent on the vice there. Kathleen K. Montgomery, she would have been the person most responsible for the hands-on coordination of the legal counsel of the Unitarian Universalist Association. So she would have been the person who would have done all the dirty work. But Reverend Dr. Peter Morales would at minimum have authorized this, even if he wasn't directly involved in all the legal shenanigans, dirty work involved in having me accused of blasphemous libel in a arrogant and aggressive cease and desist demand letter that I was served with approximately 5 years ago now. And of course, every other top-level UUA leader is effectively complicit in this, if they're not knowingly and willfully complicit. They've all been made aware of this. Numerous UUA board trustees, numerous different iterations of the UUA Board of Trustees, 2 moderators of the Unitarian Universalist Association, people who are supposed to oversee what the administration of the Unitarian Universalist Association does to ensure that it aligns with Unitarian Universalist principles. Well, they all totally abdicated their responsibility to hold Reverend Dr. Peter Morales responsible for his misuse of Canada's blasphemy law, to say nothing of also holding Kathleen K. Montgomery responsible for her role in it, to say nothing of holding anyone else who was involved in this responsible, but no, these people are totally complicit. They're enablers of this kind of legal bullying. They're just as interested in hiding such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers as Reverend Dr. Peter Morales and Kathleen K. Montgomery, to name just two of them. So here we are protesting, and quite enjoying it, actually. I mean, we're also quite enjoying being accused of blasphemy by atheist Unitarians in the 21st century. I mean, that's a truly unique honor and privilege. You know, how many people ever get to be accused of violating Canada's blasphemy law, period, and then on top of that, accused of violating Canada's blasphemy law by atheists, and on top of that, being accused of violating Canada's blasphemy law by a religious community that has a centuries-old tradition of opposing blasphemy laws. I mean, that's incredibly unique. You know, I was kind of hoping I'd be the last person to be accused of blasphemous libel in Canada, and I did actually call for the law to be repealed or at minimum reformed in the wake of being falsely accused of blasphemous libel. I did informally bring it to the attention of Justin Trudeau some years ago. I believe it was 2013, where I brought the Unitarian Universal Association's misuse of blasphemy law to his attention. Also brought it to the attention of Thomas Mulcair directly, personally, in a conversation, brief conversation I had with him. And I did protest on Parliament Hill, protested in front of the Justice Department in Ottawa, protested in front of the Supreme Court. So I think I did my bit to call for the repeal or reform of Canada's blasphemy law, and it turns out that that's what's going to happen. The current